You're listening to the Rent Roll Radio Show with Sterling Chapman. Hey, Rent Roll Radio listeners, welcome back to the show. As always, I'm your host, Sterling Chapman, and today we're joined by Prashant Kumar, who is the owner and managing partner of My Realty Gains Management, LLC. Mr. Kumar, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Sterling. Appreciate it very much.
Awesome. So give us the rundown. What's your story? How'd you get into real estate investing and where'd you come from and what are you doing now?
So I'll start from the beginning. You said, where do I come from? Of course, I come from India. I came here in 1998 in January with $150 in my pocket. Before that, of course, I was in India. I didn't go to one of the best schools in India. That kind of tells that I have a little bit of aptitude, so to say, to get there. From that perspective, I have worked in technology sector ever since I graduated from in 95. I have worked with all the big pharmaceutical companies in the country here in the technology leadership positions and management positions. After 15, 20 years of working, I realized, the day I don't work, I don't get paid. You are always gung-ho in trying to keep working. It's like a golden handcuff. You get paid a lot. The day you don't work, you don't get paid. I do consulting, so I get paid at a high, pretty handsome. But I don't work, I don't get paid. So I said I had to build something which is working for me, even if I am not working, right? So that's how I got involved in real estate. I bought 2 single families 4 years ago when I started. I bought 3 single families in first year of my real estate.
How did that go?
I realized very fast that it's not scalable. Within a couple of months, I knew that's not something which I really want to do going forward, because to replace my income, I needed about 200 homes. And it would take me about 12 years, 15 years to replace my income. So long story short, I jumped into multifamily. I bought a multifamily, which is 24 units. And I spent only 18 days buying that. And I said, wow, this is good, man. This is good stuff. So, and again, when your savings start to run out, right, you cannot keep on buying. So I started attending all these boot camps, Rotcliffe's, Jake and Gino's, you name it, I was there. I was like everywhere. That's where I learned, this idea of syndication, use other people's money and still make some money out of it for yourself, because you build competency, right? So you build team, you build competencies, skill set. That's how I started doing syndication. I still buy assets for myself, but I'm focused on multifamily syndications. I'm focused on a little bit on assisted livings also. So that's my forte. Basically, I like to grow that assisted living business as well.
How many assisted living facilities do you have?
I currently have 3 assisted living facilities and I'm buying 4th one as we speak.
Well, if you don't mind, and shame on me for not reading your resume before the show and knowing that, but we have so many multifamily syndicators on this show, and we have never had anybody that had done assisted living facilities. So I would love to deep dive into that if you don't mind.
I would love to talk about it. I would love to talk about it. See, multifamily and assisted livings are 2 different asset classes, right? We know that both these asset classes are sort of recession resistant, so to say. Like multifamily, there is always a demand for assisted living also, right? Everybody's getting older every day, right? Nobody's getting
whether we want to or not.
Whether we want to or not, nobody's getting younger. So there is a demand out there, right? So, the one which I have bought so far, I'm learning, that was just a pilot project. We went to a residential model to begin with, because that's where you have higher cash flow. You are buying a single family home and then you are putting 6 residents there. Okay. Or, we typically buy the business. Okay. I just go and buy the business rather than buying a property and then build it, take the license and stuff like that. I don't do that. I just go buy the business and transfer the license in my name, basically.
You don't need any type of credentials or certifications to go into that business, or is that something you already had from your work?
You need to be a multifamily administrator. This is state specific requirements. You need to go to the classes. You need to be an administrator to be able to run. So the operator, see, I'm the owner, right? Owner of the, but the operator who's running the property for me, he needs to have that certification. I don't need to have the certificate. I know nothing about that certification.
Okay.
So for me, so it's like a property manager. Property manager may or may not, in multifamily, property manager may or may not need a certification, or may not need a license, realtor license. But in assisted living, an operator of that property needs to have an administrative license.
Can you back up a little bit? Because I'm
Yeah.
still a little confused about, and I'm only confused because I know
Yeah.
nothing about the assisted living facility industry.
Sure.
In my mind, when I hear assisted living facility, I think of like a big building
Yeah.
where people go towards the end of their life. What
Yeah.
you described, it sounds like a much smaller kind
Yes.
of.
Yeah. Let me take a step back. Yes, there are two kinds of assisted living facilities. One is big box. We call them big box facilities. It's like in a hotel
Sure.
room. Hotel. You have separate rooms in the
Yep.
line, and at the first floor you typically have their kitchens. You have all the entertainment facilities like what we have in a
Sure.
hotel. Basically, you go to Marriott, first floor is always like a kitchen or a lobby and entertainment and stuff like that, and on top you have rooms. So that
Yep.
same thing you can have assisted living also, in a similar fashion. It's called big box facility. It has a little bit more regulations, a little more expenses, because you are dealing with very high quality professionals, things like that. I'm not talking about them yet. I'm talking about the another model is you have a single family home where you can have anywhere from 6 to 18 residents.
Okay.
You take care of them, or your staff takes care of them, basically on a day-to-day basis, for their needs for entertainment, food, lodging, and everything included. So it is still a single family home, and depending upon the state, I mean, in California it can be only up to 6 beds.
Are you in California? Where are you coming to us from?
Yes, in this business we are in California right now,
Okay.
but we plan to expand that into other states like Arizona, Colorado, or Texas, or New Jersey. I mean, I live in New York, so I probably would do something in New Jersey also. Not in New York. I mean, New York is not something which I can handle because there are too many restrictions.
Sure.
So you have a 6 bed facility. Let me just step back and say you are at home. It looks like a home in a residential area. It doesn't look any different, except that you have ample parking, and you have maybe a ramp to go into the home. It's not like the steps for elderly people, and just a normal home. And you
It's got
have
to be a big home to house 18 people.
if it is 18 or 12 beds, then it has to be a big home. But in California, our homes are like 6 beds. So it is simple home. Typically what people do is they have a garage or something. So they convert that garage into 2 beds. So they have 4 bed home, and they kind of convert that garage area into 2 beds. So you have like 6 beds facility. So basically, it is high expense ratio business. It is a business. The operator has to be really skillful, because you are dealing with people on a day-to-day basis. You in multifamily, you have residents, your tenants. You don't need to talk to them on a day-to-day
Right.
basis.
You got a
As long
property
as
manager. Yeah.
yeah, property manager doesn't need to talk to them on a day-to-day basis. As long as they submit the rent, property manager doesn't need to interact with them. Here, the operator needs to interact, feed them, bathe them, help them, medicate, administer the medicines and everything, basically. So the operator has to be very skillful operator, so to say. He has to hire the right staff, the staff who is skillful. So there is the cost of running a assisted living is the ratio is a little bit higher. It is not like multifamily where our expenses go from anywhere from 40% or 35% even to like 50-55%. There's a little bit higher because you are paying extra to the operator. Operator doesn't come with 3-4%. Maybe they do, but they charge maybe gross 8-9%, something like that. So our expense ratio, because you are providing food, you are providing entertainment, you are providing everything to your tenants, right? So the expense ratio is typically 60 to 65% range.
If you have a higher expense ratio, meaning you have a lower profit percentage, why do that over like a multifamily?
You have lower percentage of profit, but your rents are pretty high.
Okay.
To give an example, if it is 6-bed facility, you buy it for maybe 800,000. Let's just give round number, You buy 6-bed facility for 800,000, but each bed, each room, you are charging anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 per month.
Wait, what?
So yeah,
$5,000 a bed?
yeah, yeah, because you are providing all the services to your residents.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so on an average, your rent roll is approximately 24 to $30,000 per month,
Okay.
and right, just on a round figure, if you see one third as a cash flow out of your operations, that would be anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 per home cash flow out of it.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah,
Right?
those
Makes
numbers
sense.
are a lot more attractive. Yeah.
It is not a $3,000. You are not renting your home for $3,000. You are running a business, and where your gross rent incoming is anywhere from 24 to $30,000 a month.
Do you find that those like kind of single family, or as you call them, residential models are better than or worse than the big box stores? Because in my mind, you could take better advantage of the economies of scale in a much larger facility.
Yeah. So in my mind, so basically, if you have to buy a business, okay, if you have to buy a business, your big box facility will be sold at maybe 7 cap or 8 cap. You are giving a lot of money to
Mhm.
buy that asset.
Got
Unless you
it.
do the ground up development, that's a different story altogether. If you're
Okay.
buying a running business, you will buy it at maybe 8 cap, maybe 9 cap, maybe 10 cap, right? I hope everybody understand what I mean by cap. But when you are talking about this business, if you have this running business, you are making $10,000 cash flow NOI per month, $120,000 on a $800,000 investment.
That's insane.
You are talking about 15 cap.
Yeah.
Your cap is pretty high. I think it is even more than that. So your cap is really, really high in a smaller model. And so is your investment. Your investment is lower too, right?
Sure.
You know, but in a bigger one comes out more expensive. Their expenses are of different kind. You have to have
Right.
extra landscaping. You have to have lakes going on. So you are making it luxurious, so to say, and you're providing all that facility. That's the difference, basically. We want to go into the bigger ones. We are learning the ropes. We have over the last year and a half, we have done these three. We are doing few more into different states. So we are learning the business. And of course, we are in multifamily syndication. So we know how the syndication works.
So you are syndicating these
No,
assisted
these
living
ones are the
facilities.
small, these are ones are the homes. So we are just buying it in our names, no
Okay.
syndication. We are, because those are like one transaction is 800,000. It's not worth doing the syndication
Sure.
in that. But if you go into the big box facility, which will be like maybe 5, 10 million, 15 million, then of course we will do syndication.
Okay. So I have two questions, and I know you can't answer them both at the same time, but I'm afraid I'm going to forget one of them if I don't spit them both out. So the first one is around where you find your tenants or the old folks that come into your homes,
Yeah.
because just in my mind, I hope to never put my parents in any type of home, especially if they're listening to this, but I would probably feel more comfortable with like a big, luxurious name brand facility than just some guy who's going to stick them in some little house over here in
Yeah.
the corner. So I just wonder how you deal with
Yeah.
that. And then my next question is around market selection. What do you look for when you're deciding where to buy, besides it sounds like
Yes.
you just buying
Let's,
where you are
yeah.
right now?
Very good. Okay. So let me answer the first question, right? Would I go and live in an apartment complex where I'm in those homes? there are different ways you can look at it, right? Would I like to go in a bigger box facility where I'm just in my room and I'm professionally being taken care of, but there's no personal interaction. The staff is
Sure.
changing daily. At the time they give me the food, and I'm watching TV, I'm doing some activities. Yes, people, that's one model, but there is another model where you need to have human touch. So everybody has different needs, and you feel like you want to put your loved ones into a place which feels like a home,
Sure.
not like a hospital,
Sure.
right? Not like a hospital where you have rooms. Everybody has different needs, and we have never had any problem. People do like this residential model where they know that, yes, my dad, my mom is going to be with these six people.
Hmm.
These are six people of their age. They will become friends because they'll be talking to them all the time. Only these six people will be there. Maybe, there'll be some changes once in a while, and the staff is going to be the same. So it kind of becomes a family,
Awesome.
right? So, and it's not just one. I mean, this is a business model. I mean, it's like everywhere. I never knew that these were places were there around my home, around my house where I live. But when I search for it, they're like all over the place.
Sure.
So it is a grow. I mean, it's a business basically. I mean, not that I do it from a business perspective, but money does come. We do earn money. I mean, we are more like in the serving attitude.
So
Uh,
let me ask you this: with the rents being so high, with the cost of care being so high, how are you paid? Is this typically the actual people paying? Is it their children
yes,
paying? Is there some
yeah,
insurance or
we just do private pay,
okay?
or in some cases there might be a need from a hospital where they may want to put somebody in a care facility rather than keeping them in the hospital for a month or two. In those cases, I mean, hospital will pay us, hospital will charge the insurance company. But mostly it is all private pay. Kids want to have their parents a good life, and they have budgeted for that. And we don't do Medicare and stuff. These are not skilled nursing facilities.
Okay.
This is just a care home where elderly people can come and they live happily, until the next step happens in their life.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Can I just go
Yeah.
buy a big house down the street, or is there other things I probably need to think about before I
Yes.
pick an area?
Very good. Very good question. You can buy a house down the street, but you need to know the regulations in the state,
Okay.
right? You need to know what regulation is anybody doing that kind of thing. Anybody do you know an operator? They may guide you that yes, you can buy this home. I mean, how many beds are allowed, right? So you need to learn some ropes. It's not like you just buy a home and rent it out. It's not that.
Hmm.
You need to know what are the state regulations. How can I convert this home into, because not every home has 6 beds, as I said,
Right.
right? Or 12 beds or 18 beds for that matter. So you need to find a suitable property. But the best thing is to find an operator who can run it, who has done it before, rather than you doing it yourself. Associate yourself with a operator where you can talk to the operator, or you can partner with an operator for that matter, actually. I mean, this is what we did. We partnered with the operator directly, and the operator is running the show for us on the ground, and we are managing other pieces of the business. So it's very technical. It's like healthcare, right? I mean, it's like going to doctor's office. There's so many regulations, so much piece of
Sure.
information, so much to, you have to always be on top of paperwork that state requirement, especially now in COVID. We are testing our
Yeah, I bet.
residents every week. We are testing our residents every week. And in California, they have every single regulation that they can think of, they have put in.
Sure. Have you had
And
any issue being in California where the bulk of
we have issues, while we are trying to buy more, because of the regulations, lenders have stopped lending on these properties. So we have issues. So that's why we are looking at other states now, starting to look at other states, because California had just have too many regulations, and lenders not willing to give lend basically. I mean, our balance sheets are okay, but lenders are like, I mean, we have been turned down by so many lenders, in
Sure.
California. So it's probably it's not worth our time anymore to start chasing, continue to chase lenders. And so, I mean, from a market selection, you have to start somewhere, right? If you know the business, you are in Texas, you are in Colorado, and you are in Arizona. I mean, at least these states I know because I have done the research. Plus New Jersey, you can buy a home and you can start looking to doing things. Or I mean, we buy businesses. We
Hmm.
don't buy. We have not done anything from the scratch yet, but we plan to do something from the ground up, or buy a home and convert that into a
Sure.
business. That is the next step that we have to do.
Awesome. Now that you've bought the business itself and the license and the employees and the staff and the infrastructure, going forward, you're not looking to buy another business. You could probably just buy a house and use your existing infrastructure to grow that way.
From a operation standpoint, our softwares and all, we just use whatever we have done in one home. We just use the same thing in
Just
another home.
copy,
Just
plug
bring,
and play.
yeah, just bring more employees. But each home is a separate business.
I
Each
got you.
home needs its tenants. So every time we buy home, we buy a business.
Does that give you liability protection, segregating those assets like that? Is that why you
That
do
is
that?
correct. Yeah, that is correct. Very good question. Every time each home is a separate business, and we have separate liability insurance for all of them, so that these are not intermingled.
Sure.
So the liability on one home is only on that home. The other home is not affected by this. So
Yeah,
that's the
no.
asset protection part. But so every home has to have a licensed administrator.
Hmm.
So there is a license for that home. So you get the license for the facility. So that takes like 6 months time.
Ah,
So we do buy a home and you convert it, you 6 months, you are paying the mortgage, and then you start bringing the residents. We have not done that yet. So we just keep on buying one business at a time. So that's how we have been doing it. We have not done too much. We have only three homes. We want to buy one more, which we are doing right now, fourth one. But this year we plan to buy a few in Phoenix, Arizona,
awesome.
Scottsdale area. And actually, I will be in Scottsdale tomorrow for a couple of days to look at a few properties, a few businesses, and we want to expand there.
Awesome. Anything else you want to mention about the assisted living industry before we hop back over to multifamily?
I mean, this is a good cash flowing business as long as you have time. It's very easy to replicate. If you have
Yeah.
done one, it's not that it's easy. It's just that you have learned the ropes, so you
Yeah.
can continue to replicate that. You can make your W2 income in one home itself.
Yeah.
So those who are looking to quit their job sometime, invest into one assisted living home for a year. By the end of the year, I'm 100% sure that you'll start making what you make in your job, considering what you are in a mid-level pay range.
Oh, well, you've definitely piqued my interest. I'm going to be digging into that, and I'll
Sure.
definitely be
Yeah,
calling you
you're
later.
yes, you are welcome, Sterling. Anytime. I would love to help, and I would love to share whatever I know. Hold your hands wherever is needed.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, hopping into multifamily, tell us about your experience and your plans with the multifamily syndication space.
Yeah, so basically, as I said, in 2019, we did about 1,200 units.
Okay.
And after that, in 2020 was not the best year. We did not do much into 2020 for obvious reasons.
Where are most of your 1,200 units?
So we have properties in Huntsville, Alabama, Atlanta, Indianapolis, and Houston.
I
These are the
spent
four.
most of 2020 looking for an apartment complex in Huntsville, Alabama. I guess you
Who is
beat me.
it?
You beat me to
Okay.
it.
Okay. No, we are actually closing a deal in Huntsville next week.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know whether you know the Grand Reserve. That's what we are closing.
Hmm.
It's a
Yeah.
232 unit.
Oh wow, that's awesome. So obviously there's a difference between the markets where you're buying multifamily and where you're buying the assisted living facilities. So can you explain why such a different area when it comes to that?
Yes, so it is based on your partnerships, right? I mean, so assisted living is just a separate, different kind of business, and multifamily is a different kind of business. So our property managers in our properties in multifamily, they are specialized only in multifamily, and we have different market. But our operator, when we started our assisted living, our operator is from California, and they have like 10 other facilities. So we kind of just tag along with them, and we bought 3 properties there. So that's a different business, different partner, and multifamily is a completely different animal. And we do multifamily where it makes sense in terms of the market. But as a still living, we are doing where we have more partnership, more boots on the ground, and we have more knowledge of the market, so to say, in that space. So, I mean, can we do assisted living in Huntsville? I'm sure we can, but we don't have the competency, the skill set that we need for those. And if we find something, we will do it. It's just that we have not done it yet.
Awesome. So, how was it transitioning into multifamily? How big was your first apartment complex?
My first apartment complex was my biggest one. It was 550 units.
Wow. For those of y'all who are listening to this podcast and not watching the YouTube video, I was just hanging my mouth open in surprise. Your first apartment complex was 552 units. How do you go and buy a 552 unit apartment complex, having never done something like that before?
So it's all about your attitude, your mindset, right? I mean, it's not about, I have to buy fourplex before I buy 100 units, right?
Sure.
So it's not that. I think when you get into in this game, whether you get 10% or 70% of that business, you still are the owner of 550 units.
Sure.
Maybe your percentage is less, but point I'm trying to say is we have to realize a team game,
Sure.
right? It is not about I can do 550. Maybe I could not have, but it's about the team that you have. You have the right legal person on your team. You have the right underwriter on your team. You have the right some contacts where you bring the money, like right bridge lenders, right property managers with whom you have done the work. And you have the ability, you have the right partnerships to raise that kind of capital for the business, basically. So if you have these things together, all you have to do, you have to bring everything together and do your deal, right?
Yeah.
But yes, it is stressful. From that perspective, yes, I do agree what you are saying. I'm not rubbing that off
Yeah.
lightly. Could I have done differently? Yes, I think I should have done a little bit smaller because it was a big effort. I mean, it takes 4 or 5 months. You are paying away a lot of equity of the deal to KPs,
Mm-hmm.
to different GPs, and then you're left with little bit left for you. If
Yeah.
you are in a smaller deal, maybe I would have higher equity. But in the end, it is the same thing. 50% of 5 million is same as 10% of 25 million.
Right.
So, so in the end, it is the same thing. But you get exposed to bigger numbers. Your mind kind of opens up,
Sure.
and you are able to do bigger things in future.
Yeah. I was explaining that to somebody the other day about a 53 unit we have. And they
Mhm.
said, well, how much are you making? I said, oh, less than I make on a fourplex, but it's taken us to to a larger crowd and a larger group with bigger numbers.
And the most important thing is you are able to think bigger.
Right.
When you are in a fourplex, you are not able to think of a 53
Sure.
unit property. But when you are in 53, you can think of 100 now easily.
Yeah.
That's how I think about it. Is for me to think about 200, 300 is not a big deal anymore.
Sure.
If I had done only 100, doing 500 would have been a bigger jump. But after doing 500, 100, 200 doesn't bother me at all.
How were your rent collections during 2020?
I mean, to be frank with you, our rent collections had no issues. I mean, yes, we did.
I haven't seen anybody or any data that suggests any issues. When this thing first kicked off back in March, it was apocalyptic forecast from everyone. But it's surprisingly, it's had minimal impact on the industry, if any at
Yeah,
all.
it did. I must say that it did have some impact. It's not that it did not have any impact because we had to evict folks from our units. It did have some impact, but it's not as big as it was projected, right?
Sure.
Maybe 5 to 10% impact. in some properties, but in other properties, there was no impact at all.
Right.
So some properties did have some impact. I mean, like everybody else, we had to evict like 10% of our tenants, but we got some aid from here and there, so we were able to make it up that way. So our
Hmm.
bottom line has not changed drastically, maybe small impact, but there are some properties where there was no impact at all. I mean, there's
Hmm.
like literally no impact. I mean, we were even able to raise some rents
Right.
because we were spending more on these sanitizers and stuff. Our expenses were going a little bit higher, so we kind of raised few bucks on rent in some properties, and it people understand. We put the dispenser in every door, things like that.
Sure.
So that's little extra expense. So it worked out okay for us.
Awesome. Now, one thing I want to go back to, and it's kind of not even real estate related, but it's very much mindset related, which you and I both know is such a huge part of this or any game, really. But you said when you came over here in 1998 that you had $150 in your pocket. Tell me a little bit about the struggles you went through to get from that place to obviously the tremendous amount of success you've had today. A lot of times in America, and maybe it's like this everywhere else too. I'm just familiar with how we view things here. It's like, oh, well, he only has a lot because he started with a lot. And the folks that didn't start with a lot don't really have the opportunity to get where the other folks, the privileged folks, ended up.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're a perfect case study of how that was not the case. So can you please elaborate about that experience?
When we come to United States, we come on a work visa, right?
Mhm.
So the day we can come, you have a job. It's not that you are jobless, right? So that $150 is just a the way of saying that yes, I came, I had nothing when I came,
Sure.
but I had a job.
Hmm.
The job which was paying me whatever it was, $50,000 or whatever. So when you come in first time, you already have a job. You land on a job. So you find an apartment. Your employer helps you to settle down. They help you to get a credit card. They help you to get your driving license, and you are working from day one. So you are getting paid basically.
Hmm.
So that's your beginning basically. Yes, I'm getting paid $4,000-5,000 a month. So I pay my rent and I'm working hard, like everybody else. And the next thing you know is, after a couple of years, your salary start to go up and your skill set goes higher. You keep on switching your jobs. That time you are like focused on the job only because you don't know there is anything else in the world,
Sure.
right? At that time, unless you have a mentor at that time, and which I regret that I did not have a mentor at that time who would tell me other things in this world, right? I mean, there are 100 things to do,
Right.
right? There was nobody to tell me. So we are like with our blinders on. Okay, this is my job.
Sure.
This is my world. I mean, this computer is my job. You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
know the
definitely.
you know what these blinders that these horses have.
I interview younger guys a lot that are in their early 20s and
Uh-huh.
they're talking about house hacking and all this other kind of stuff. And I said, man, when I was in my 20s, like I had no idea. Like when I was even coming up on 30, like I thought I had the world figured out because I was doing really good at my day job.
Same thing. We were like so focused on this. Oh, I have to get a good job. I have to get another $10,000 raise, another $15,000 raise
Hmm.
on the job only, nothing else. I mean, you
Right.
freaking have no idea. You are like a dumb guy when you go and buy a car. I mean, you are like,
Right.
you know, you don't know how to negotiate with the salesman. I mean, he will rip you
Right.
off. And you feel happy writing him a check because you don't know how to negotiate. So that's how we were, right? I mean, I'm just being open and frank,
Sure.
and you are just remain like that. But when you start open, and the part of the reason is you are so focused on your job, then you don't have any time left for you. So
Right.
that financial, I would say, insecurity, because if you don't have a job, you don't have money and you cannot stay here. So you have to remain focused on the job so that you keep doing what you are doing, so that it's a cycle. Every month paychecks keeps coming, but you cannot quit the job because the moment you quit the job, you are illegal
Uh,
and you have to go back. So that's the immigrant's perspective. So
sure.
that's how they remain focused. And once you get green card and stuff, people start getting into different businesses, start buying something. I never did that for like 20 years, 15, 19 years. People do get involved into stock market and things like that. I never did that. For me, the first exposure in a different business than my day job is real estate. And I'm just loving it. I'm just loving it because
Awesome.
I don't have to say it, but your net worth going up so fast. It doesn't happen in any other area.
Sure.
You are doing a bigger project, $15 million project. The day you sign the paper, on paper, your net worth has grown,
Right.
and that helps you to get the next loan, basically.
Sure.
So this is just an amazing asset class. If you find the right asset, you buy at the right time, right price. It's not you making money; it is you helping others to the busy professionals to earn what they cannot earn.
So, my second to last question is, if you had to start over again, what would you do differently?
In my life in general, or
Well,
in real estate
in real
business.
estate.
Okay. If I had to start over again, I don't need to spend time learning about single families. I would really go into the commercial asset class from day one.
Yeah.
There is no reason for me to. I mean, I've had so many troubles with the single family. I have a tenant who has not paid me the rent for 6 months. I still have those single families, by the way. And the guy is not leaving. I mean, 6 months, he's having a free ride. And I cannot, for me as a taxpayer guy, I cannot just stop paying mortgage because that goes on my credit report.
Sure.
So basically, it's just one home, one guy can screw you up big time. I mean, this guy owns me $12,000, 6 months worth of rent. He has not paid me that much. I've not made that much money in 4 years on that house, which I'm
Right.
not, right. So it's not worth the tension, I mean, let professionals manage that rather than me managing it personally. So I would
Absolutely.
go into the commercial asset class on day one.
Yep. 100%. So, I want to finish up with our radio round where we just ask 3 questions to help our listeners get to know you a little bit better. And the first one is, what's your favorite book?
I like Joe Fearless's best ever syndication book. I like
Yep.
that one.
That book is the reason we started this podcast a year and a half ago,
Is it okay?
and the reason I got into apartment syndication. Excellent book. I love Joe Fairless all around. I loved the event he put on. I went there and saw him in Keystone last year. I was on his show. I'm trying to get him to come on my show, but he's a busy man. But
Yeah, I'm
Joe's
sure he
great for
is.
sure. What is your favorite quote?
I think I do meditation also, in my life. The way I look at my life is whatever best you have to do today. You cannot wait for tomorrow. So there is a
Absolutely.
quote: live as if you are going to die tomorrow.
Yeah.
So do whatever best you need to do or enjoy your life today. Don't put up things for tomorrow. So that helps me to keep moving every day, with full enthusiasm and keeping the purpose of life, helping others and doing the right thing today. Right now is the time to do the right thing. There may not be a next moment, you know.
Absolutely. And what's your favorite thing to do outside of work?
As I said, I meditate. I help others in their lives to gain peace. So that's where I get the biggest satisfaction that I'm giving back to the world. And even the starting this assisted living business is also on that same path. Even the syndication is also on the same path. The deepest level is meditation, giving back to the society, then helping elders, and then at the third level, helping busy professionals who cannot focus on earning money through other assets or anything, helping them to gain some financial freedom. So that's my biggest pet peeves of my life is to give back. And when I give back, I always get it,
Sure.
multifold. That's the
Absolutely.
fundamental law of nature. But I don't do that for that reason. I just, selflessly try to be what I am rather than expecting something out of it.
Awesome. Well, Prashant, I really appreciate you coming on our show today. I learned more from this show than I have in a long time. I'm not downgrading my other guests. I've had some wonderful guests on the show. You just hit into some specific topics that we don't run across every day. So I really appreciate you joining. I know our listeners are going to love it. I'm super personally, just on a personal level, super excited to have connected with you and look forward to communicating with you more in the future. Can you tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you or find out more about you?
Sure, sure. Yeah. I mean, My Realty Gains, that's the name of my company. My name is Prashant, Prashant, at myrealtygains.com. But before I go, if you go to my website, I have created a 7-day email course which kind of educates passive investors, that very busy professionals, about how they can invest into real estate passively and what are the benefits, how they can earn superior returns without doing anything in this by passively investing. So you can go to my website. I'm on Facebook or on LinkedIn, or you can call me on my cell phone. Schedule a call with me on my website. That way it's on the calendar, but my cell phone is 631-428-6479. Feel free to call me, email me, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. I'm right here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Prashant. We'll definitely be keeping in touch.
Thank you so much, Sterling. Appreciate your time today, my friend.
Thanks for tuning in to the Rent Roll Radio Show, brought to you by Crestworth Capital. We hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please hit the subscribe button and leave us a rating and review. You can also visit us at crestworthcapital.com or rentrollradio.com, or follow us on Facebook at Rent Roll Radio or at Crestworth Capital. If you would like to reach us, feel free to shoot us an email at info@rentrollradio.com or sterling@crestworthcapital.com. We hope you come back next week to join us on some more of our journey. Until then, happy investing.